There is a vessel which has become almost irreplaceable for large-scale, or small-scale mech operations in the Inner Sphere. A staple of House forces and others, it's impossible to find a war without this craft, seemingly. From the golden age of the Star League forward, one would always be able to spot these vessels in action due to their importance in giving flexibility and movement to the chaotic battlefields and campaigns of Battletech. So, let us begin to explore this flying brick, and a staple of the video games. The Leopard. A light dropship weighing in at 1,900 tons as of technical readout 3057, and 1,720 tons from technical readout 3025 before an update in dropship construction rules. The Leopard has a unique place in the world of Battletech in how it operates. The typical role of most dropships is to land and deploy forces to planets, though rarely is it viable to drop directly into combat and then simply leave. Should any of the spherical dropships attempt to make a hot drop and then depart, they will very likely find themselves trapped or destroyed. The Leopard operates instead under the principles of rapid movement, and are used to either enhance defensive positions or provide extra assistance to a breakthrough. They fly into the desired position, drop their mechs before taking off from sight, unless providing direct support to the forces that they have deployed. This means should there be a part of the front line waxing and waning, and should there be reserves in orbit or on another part of the planet, this region of battle will typically be reinforced by a hot drop by a Leopard dropship, either in the attack or to reinforce defenders. These ships will also be used to potentially drop forces into the rear of enemy positions, attempting to disrupt supply lines or command and control. As a result, the Leopard is a devastating weapon of war in how it delivers its deadly cargo of battle mechs. This isn't the end of the vehicle's role, however, simply because it does more than just fulfill the tasks above. It acts as a very common dropship in use for small-scale operations, as well as being the ride for smaller mercenary units, which most definitely make up the majority of mercenaries across the Inner Sphere. While this ship's role was originally quite niche, it's become one of the great workhorses of the Inner Sphere. Not just acting in its original role, but being available in enough quantities to perform more normal dropship operations as well. During the Succession Wars, it specifically became renowned for being a raider-like ship, and was a favorite among bandits and pirates as well. There is another point here too, that several other dropships were directly designed based on the Leopard itself, including the clan dropship known as the Broadsword. There is another Inner Sphere Leopard as well, specifically the Leopard CV, which does much of what the Leopard can do, though it is entirely dedicated to deploying fighter aircraft instead of ground forces. Originally produced in 2537, prior to the formation of the Star League, the Leopard was an innovative design for its time, and operated in a way very much distinct from the line of dropships that tend to be modeled after the venerable Manatee dropships that were first introduced only a handful of decades earlier. The Leopard seems to be modeled almost more on many of the earlier troop carriers for its time, at least physically. In order to carry its large mass through the atmosphere and among the stars, the Leopard class comes equipped with a 360-ton Star League V-84 interplanetary drive. To feed this enormous engine, it comes with 123 tons of fuel, of which it will burn 2 tons every day it is in operation. It has a higher thrust rate in-game than the Union class or Overlord class, meaning that it has a higher performance in regards to its overall speed, which is to say nothing also of its general advantages in maneuvering. The Leopard also has downward thrusters, which can be used to keep the craft hovering above the ground, so it has the ability to direct drop battle mechs without actually touching the ground. Dropships have the purpose, typically, of being equipped with various things to drop on sight, whether that be civilian goods, industrial equipment, or military units and assets. The Leopard, being a military craft, focuses on the latter. To start with, its standard application is to drop mech forces on the battlefield, and for this, it comes with the capability of deploying up to 4 mechs at one time from within its bays and cubicles. These bays can also act as mech repair facilities, though it is not particularly spacious and may have some issues in this role, if relied on extensively, just due to the lack of other storage capacity for spare parts. Given that it only has 34 tons of excess cargo capacity outside of each individual mech bay's capacity of 100 to 150 tons. This means that often, the mechs within these bays, if they need repair parts, may in fact be starved depending on the replacement components that can actually fit on board. There is also a dedicated fighter bay, which includes 2 cubicles for twin aerospace fighters. These fighters are very much important, as they will often act as an extra layer of defense for the Leopard itself, or they will take on a recon and support role for their landed ground forces, depending on the combat situation. If there are no fighters on board the Leopard, these fighter bays are often used to keep more supplies within the Leopard, allowing it to better service the mechs it has in storage. When compared to bigger, more powerful dropships like the Union, the Leopard may seem undergunned. When compared to most ground forces, however, it seems like perhaps a long-range nightmare, and one that is covered in almost impervious amounts of plating. To start with, for cooling, the Leopard as of dropships and jumpships the sourcebook is listed as having a total of 80 heatsinks installed on board for its very broad complement of weapon systems. For those weapons, it lists as follows. In the nose, it mounts twin PPCs, 3 medium lasers, and an LRM-20 with 12 rounds of ammunition. In the wings, it has 1 LRM-20 per side with 12 rounds of ammunition, as well as a pair of large lasers on both wings, and a medium laser mounted in both wings. Finally, to its aft, it has a large laser and twin medium lasers. For protecting itself and the contents within, the Leopard has 29.5 tons of armor, giving it 480 points of plating to be distributed across its chassis. This is not particularly impressive in dropship combat, but it is enough to weather most fire from enemy mech ground forces while it's deploying its dangerous payload of battle mechs, except of course against particularly heavily defended areas. The most important element of such a vessel, truthfully, are the people who operate it and those who rely on it. To say that military dropships are accommodating to their crews is not always true. Cramped quarters and often limited recreational space is an issue, especially over the course of longer deployments. The Leopard is meant to support no more than 15 people. It has a crew of 9 officially, which is 2 officers, 4 enlisted personnel, and 3 gunners. Each of the crew of potentially 15 have their own rooms, their own small quarters, which includes a small fold-down desk, a bed, and a wall locker. There is also a very Spartan bathroom attached to each of these crew member rooms. The problem is math begins to make this scenario nearly impossible in short order, and ensures that the Leopard is always cramped for space. It will likely carry 4 Mechwarriors with the crew. This increases the crew capacity to 13. If it also has 2 aerospace pilots as well, now we're at 15. 15, of course, is the maximum it's designed to carry. But unfortunately, in order to support this equipment, you need more than just the pilots. Multiple technicians are needed for each fighter bay and battle mech, often increasing this by a further 12. Meaning that 27 people often occupy living accommodations meant for 15. This makes living within the Leopard extremely overcrowded, with multiple people sharing rooms meant for no more than 1 person. This is, to put it lightly, less than ideal. The Leopard is a fantastic vehicle, though it does have its flaws. It is heavily armed for its size, though it is not much of a match for a dedicated dropship killer, but it is able to defend itself more than competently against its expected opposition. Its frame is, for a dropship, relatively aerodynamic and allows the vessel to perform its role in atmosphere very well, which is to either support defenders or exploit breakthroughs. It has other tasks which it can perform as well, quite adequately, such as dropping troops behind enemy lines, or performing raiding operations, all while being supported by its impressive Star League-era engines. It's easy to maintain as a vessel and has low upkeep, outside of those previously mentioned V-84 interplanetary drives, which can be very difficult to keep in operation if they experience too much wear and tear, and are complex to repair and maintain. It carries a lance of mechs and a small wing of fighters. Leopards may work in packs when used by large militaries in big operations, to deploy larger forces together in bigger scale, rapid deployments. Crew accommodations are not its highest priority, and this can impact operations, or at least the mood of the crew, which need to operate inside of it for potentially extended periods of time. Running as a skeleton in operation, not housing mechs or the related staff, helps with this most assuredly, but doesn't line up with the realities of its functions and operations. It needs, especially while being operated for long deployments, more space for its crew than it currently has. Almost twice as much space. Due to its low operational costs, though, it's a favorite for mercenaries and bandits, particularly smaller units. It is most extensively used, though, by the Great Houses and Periphery states. The Leopard is the dropship people may be most familiar with. It is the central point in both Battletech, the video game from 2017, and from Mechwarrior 5, the latest iteration of that series. It is also an asset used in Mechwarrior Online. Of course, long before all of this, it was routinely displayed as one of the main dropships in the setting, as far back as the 1980s, along with the Union and Overlord dropships. This consistent and common display of the dropship comes from its features. It fits the narrative and the atmosphere of the video games quite well, lining up with small mercenary operations. I mentioned this in the conclusion part of our video because it is a natural conclusion for such a vessel to have ended up this way. The Leopard is the perfect vehicle for such storytelling because of the features that we have talked about in this video. It has been fighting across the Inner Sphere in various ways for 600 years because of those features. There is no conflict that has not felt its presence, almost certainly. Despite being one of the smallest of the dropships, at least the mech-carrying dropships, it is perhaps the most iconic. This is not always the case in science fiction. It's not even the case in Battletech itself, with the Atlas perhaps being the most recognizable mech in the series, only competing with the Mad Cat for such recognition, and it is as big as a mech can normally get. The Leopard has claimed this title because it's the right size, and because it is used for the right kinds of operations. This relatively nimble attack craft, despite not being the greatest dropship ever designed on paper, is nonetheless the greatest dropship in all of Battletech. Thank you for joining me here today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. I do updates very frequently and you'll be happy with the content, I think. Also, a huge thank you to all the YouTube members for this channel. When you hit the join button and become a member, you take an extra step in supporting the content on this channel, and I can't thank you enough. Because this content is only possible because of viewers like you. And with that, I will see all of you in the comment section below.